reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is the Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
What's up, everybody? It's the Horror Deconstruction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and most likely on YouTube. Listen, give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe. With those komp and
MC Hammer.
Today's film is
Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer.
Tetsuo 2.
1992.
Yeah, it doesn't say an original name. It just says, I guess that was the original name. Because usually they go Tetsuo 2 Hamuru, some big Japanese phrasing. Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer, 1992. When metal-worshipping fanatics abduct his son, a father unleashes his dormant destructive power as his naked rage transforms the once feeble flesh into a grisly symbiosis of metal and tissue. Who dares to defy the ultimate body hammer?
Well, I like
that's a good description.
That's actually accurate.
I wonder if that's from the actual studio release or somebody.
I know it's the same actor, right? It's the same actor, but directed it's a completely different story.
Directed and written by Shinya Tsukumo. You might remember him as Gigi, the old man from Ichi the Killer. You know, the old man that took his jacket off and he had big muscles and shit.
But it's also the guy that did that Hiduko the Goblin.
Haruko the Goblin.
Haruko the Goblin.
That was a fun movie. Starring Tomoro Taguchi, Shinya Tsukumo, and Nobu Kanoaka. So, why did I pick Tetsuo Body Hammer? Well, I'll tell you. That's them calling me. They're like, "Why are you making this movie?" Well, I picked Body Hammer because I've always heard of, but we did already Tetsuo, the original one. What was it? Tetsuo the Iron Man was the original one?
I think so, yeah. I remember it being very, very crazy cameras the whole time.
Yeah, I think we both enjoyed it. I can't remember much of it other than sort of the stop motion animation stuff.
I feel like it was super inspired by Evil Dead.
I'm sure, and I think it was like only an hour long or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I barely remember the plot. I don't even know if there was a plot. I just remember it being like.
I think it was just two guys that became infected. So if like somebody's listening to this and they actually know the film, like please don't get upset at us. I'm sorry. It's been like it's a movie I haven't seen like in probably 7 or 8 years. But so it's just two guys kind of metamorphizing into like machines, and then they just destroy each other. I don't know if they destroy the world or whatever, but I remember being impressed by how it looked. Like it was definitely like do it yourself, but it definitely had like that art house look to it because it's all black and white. It was all noisy and crazy and stuff like that. So this follows that up, and I had heard of this movie for the longest time. I knew of Shinya Tsukumo, obviously. First time I saw him was through Ichi the Killer, and I found out he was a director. And there was a couple of films of his that I know. There's a movie called Snake in June, which I think is like an erotic thriller. He's like become a pretty prolific director himself now. Obviously, that he kind of does. I don't think he does this type of film anymore, but he does like he certainly has his own style, and I'm sure his style has. I certainly have not seen any films like his style. Like, you know how we know David Lynch because he has a specific kind of weird, quirky style. Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure his style follows here because it looks like an art installation. You know what I mean? It just looks so strange and interesting, and he certainly has different kind of looks to the film itself. So I had heard, and I love the title Body Hammer because it sounds like violent and it sounds like cool. And he made a Tetsuo 3.
Was that good?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I heard it's not that good. I've seen like bits and pieces, and I think Trent Reznor did a song for the movie specifically for that movie. And it was so funny because America wanted Shinya Tsukumo to like do a Tetsuo movie in America. Like they were like, let's give you money, and he said, give me 300. He said, no, if he directed, I'm sure. Well, they probably would have made him like,
but they would have
talking dog or something. But he's like, I want $350 million, and I want Tetsuo to destroy all North America. But I think he was saying that. I guess maybe he doesn't like America. I'm not sure. But anyway, so he did Tetsuo 3, and that actually has like a Caucasian lead in it. So I'm not sure. That was in Japan. He also did a movie called what was it? It's like a Tokyo Fist, and there's like a great clip of it on YouTube where it's the same. It's like two boxers, right? Like there's one boxer and his wife leaves him for another boxer, and it's like a rivalry. And I saw one clip where the boxer like punches the other guys in the face, right? And the guy's face explodes, like his fist of the North Star. Like the guy doesn't die, his face just literally explodes, like from the side, and you see his like blood shoot everywhere. So he certainly has a interesting aesthetic that I can't really pinpoint down, but he certainly something from the first film that carries on.
I feel like this film, I kept thinking of Yu Yu Hakusho and the Toguro brothers. Remember the big demon guy with all the muscles?
The people from this movie, the cast certainly looks like something you'd see out of an anime, aesthetic-wise.
That main bad guy, not the one with the hair lip that was his brother, but the other main one that wore like
the
that
black
big leather
trench coat and stuff like that.
Thing.
Yeah, they look great. They look like they walked right out of a cartoon or something.
He reminded me of the younger Toguro brother.
Is it the guy who has like the big muscles or something?
It was the one that was like huge muscles and like you could just get bigger and bigger muscles, and then the older brother was the one that was like a shape-shifting
apparently Netflix is making a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho series, so we'll see what happens. Like, I saw the Cowboy Bebop series. Like, I think, the first 3 episodes.
Wasn't it bad? I heard it was bad.
No, you know what? I thought it was okay for what it was. It's just that people on the internet are fucking, like, crazy for that. Like, you'll always have Cowboy Bebop. You know, the live-action series, like, Danny, when's the last time you've seen like a cyberpunk western television series? Like, I think the last one was probably Firefly or something, and I've never watched that show. But like, this is like with weird Japanese aesthetics, and it was cool. And I was like, oh, I'm digging it. But then, of course, the internet, so they canceled it, and now they're doing a show based on One Piece, which is like the longest running, most popular Japanese manga cartoon ever.
Yeah, I've never gotten into that because I don't have the patience to watch like an 800 episode.
Oh no, Danny! It's nearly 1,200 episodes. I tried.
It's just simply not happening. And how much is filler? You know,
I've gotten. I hate filler. I don't know what filler is, but
how many of them are episodes where it's Goku and Piccolo taking driving lessons? You know,
that you'd watch though, right?
Because I watched. It is funny, but
I watched Netflix. They have One Piece on Netflix. I don't think they have all 1,000 episodes, but I've gotten up to like episode 75. Kind of, you know, when you just kind of leave it on and you just start doing other shit and you watch it. And I was like thinking, I was like, I'm only like episode 75. There's like 1,000 fucking episodes. How could I do it?
You're not even 10% done.
So now Yu Yu Hakusho, and they're doing a live action One Piece, and people are already like going, oh well, this is gonna fuck up. Although the sets are impressive, and now I could just imagine, since you like Yu Yu Hakusho, what are they gonna do with that? And like, how's that guy with the Togusa character that you say with the muscles gonna look in live action? You know what I mean? So we'll see about that. But
cool. Who knows?
I guess back to Tetsuo Body Hammer. This movie. Like, it was funny because when I picked this, I was like, okay, I watched it on Shudder, which was nice. It was a nice little horror movie you could just watch. And I was like, okay, I haven't seen this. Fantastic, like, 90s, 80s aesthetic to it.
I love the music.
Right. Oh, fantastic soundtrack and everything. And what was interesting is, like, after I had finished watching it, I was kind of ambivalent about how I felt about the movie. Because I think maybe it was kind of carried on from the first film. Like, it's sort of a thing where I appreciate Shinya Tsukumo as an artist. Like, I didn't watch this movie as a film. I guess after a while, it was like a art
piece.
Piece.
Just a visual treat. It's like Videodrome combined with like Evil Dead, and just like no plot really.
Yeah, because there's a beautiful aesthetic thing that he does with stop motion animation. Which I can imagine.
The
wire stuff cool. that he does. Because I remember that specifically being in the first movie. I think there was a part where a guy was like in a bathroom and he started mutating, and there was like these weird sort of. It looked like, you know, fiber optic wires.
Yeah.
And the same thing was in here, and I was like, oh, I love that. Look, because it's so. It looks like a total mess on screen, but it's also beautiful looking. So that carries on to here. But the story with this is there's a guy named.
It's basically monochromatic. Everything's like blue and black and gray. Like. That's it.
Yeah, so as far as I see, I don't think there's anybody named Tetsuo in this film, but there's a character, the main character, Tomo Taguchi.
What does Tetsuo actually mean? It must mean something.
Maybe. But, I mean, Tetsuo is from the Akira. You saw Akira, right? The movie? Yeah, what about the psychic battles? So, I don't know, people must like that name. So, anyway, there's Taniguchi Tomo, who's this mild-mannered.
It means wise man.
Oh, okay. So Taniguchi is this mild-mannered guy with his very pretty wife, Nobu Kanewako, who's playing Kana, and so they have their little boy. I think his name was Midori or something like that. Minori, excuse me. Midori is blue. Minori, I don't know what that means. So they're three of them together. They look like They have that, and the camera angles are all like weird and Dutch, and they're floating, and it feels all dreamlike. And I like really like that because you don't see that in movies now. This is like a totally like
this is at 80s. They're at peace at this point.
Yeah, this is like an 80s, 90s aesthetic thing where everything just kind of floats around. It's sort of like if you watch Japanese television, like you remember how in the 90s commercials are so great for the American 90s?
Yeah.
Like they had weird Go-Gurt commercials, like shit I wouldn't even buy, but I'll watch the commercials because it's fun. And there's plenty of YouTube channels that recorded all those commercials from the 90s. You could just kind of watch it.
I know. I follow a couple
it's like
of them.
Sad. Me too. And but the thing is, Japan has never left that phase of commercials. Their commercials are still like fun and wacky and weird.
Good.
You know what I mean? Nowadays, like commercials are like Instagram influencers or TikTok people doing dances and shit, and it doesn't make any sense. Or like ironic humor that's not funny. But the only ones that are funny are like progressive commercials. Anyway, why I'm bringing that up is that here the aesthetics are very 80s, 90s, clean cut, dreamlike, experimental cinema. And so Taniguchi's with his wife and his kid, and they're just going on their day regularly. And these two thugs that look like they've walked out of a futuristic Japanese animation. They have big black cloaks. Everybody's fashionably good in this. Like, they look cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and, like, it's these two guys in these big black cloaks, and they're, like, you know those shades that are just, like, on your nose? Like, you don't even have, like, the earpieces for it?
Yeah.
Like, they have that. It's
I'm
like
not cool enough for those.
It's like some out of you know, it's pathetic. I remember I found a pair of glasses that had, like, you know Dwayne Wayne from that old, like, it was a black sitcom called The Different World, where you had, like, lenses on top of, like, blue lenses over regular glasses.
And they flip up, Yeah,
I had
what
that.
What is that show called? I used to watch that show.
A Different World. It was a spinoff with from Bill Cosby's show from his daughter. What was her name? The hot one?
I don't know.
She was a hot one, and then she got naked in the movie, and Bill Cosby kicked her off the show because he was mad.
What a scumbag. What a hypocrite.
Anyway. So
I hate that guy.
So racist. So I had those glasses, but they were like with a metal X on front of them. I can't believe how fucking pathetic I was. Do you know I went to school one day dressed up completely in white jeans, white vest, white shirt, and I had a white like a wrap on my head.
Were you like one of those like Matrix Rave kids?
No, I looked like I walked out of some sort of fruity boy band. I don't know what I was thinking. You know when you try to do something different and you look like a
That's
total
okay.
asshole?
I used to like bleach my hair and stuff.
I bleached my hair too. I used to have blonde hair. Anyway, oh boy. Anyway, I don't know why I'm embarrassed by that. So back to this film. Those two guys there. They take the kid and they use the same song over and over. It's like the same like techno song of them
like
chasing.
A loop. Yeah.
And there's like this extended like 5-minute chase scene of the parents chasing these guys taking their kid just for them to leave the kid. They shoot him with this sort of metal gun. I guess there's this.
Is that like, I was a little confused. Is that like an activator?
Yeah, it's an activator, but the thing is we find out later with the twist is that it didn't actually hit him. It hit like some sort of like, he had like a lighter in his jacket or something that stopped the bullet. So he's always had this, you know, machine power.
Yeah, since he was a kid.
Because I'm jumping ahead, but like when him and his brother were young, his father was like this fucked up scientist and used to experiment on them all the time for them to, like, you know, with their rage and anger, you can become like a gun. You know, you essentially become a gun where...
And the gun absorbed into his hand.
Right.
But, like, then, you know, later, when we first come to the movie, there's this old scientist guy. Who's that?
I think he was just some random guy that they picked to help synthesize it. I think maybe he teamed up with him to synthesize it. Maybe he had his father's, you know, information. But that was a cool scene with when... Taniguchi was younger, and him and his like brother Shinya Tsukumo as Yatsu is a different actor, obviously, when he was a kid, and he ends up blowing his parents away.
I mean, this is basically the plot of Videodrome, pretty much, from what I remember.
I don't remember. I remember him getting like shooting a guy, and the guy like got all this cancers, so, like tumors and shit. And that was like the most disturbing shit I had seen. That's a movie we got to see. We got to see his new movie. David Cronenberg made a movie that's apparently very disgusting called Crimes of the Future. With Aragorn.
I thought you meant James Woods. It's like, nah, fuck
No, I don't need James Woods. No thanks.
That guy's such a fucking asshole.
He's obsessed with, like, gay youth, calling them that they're going to chop up, like, their parents or something. But anyway, he's an idiot. But with this, obviously, like, he's always had that power, and I guess it was just by random coincidence, which is strange because I don't think Yatsu told him to go get that guy, because even the scientist was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" He goes, "It's some random guy with a family." So just by luck, Yatsu found his estranged brother. And
you think it was by luck? I'm pretty sure it was on purpose.
No, because the guy, when the scientist asked him, "Who did you shoot?" and he goes, "Oh, just some random business guy." Like,
maybe he was lying though to the scientist.
No, but it wasn't Yatsu. It wasn't Yatsu that did it. It was the two thugs. The two thugs were
maybe
the ones that
tell them.
Okay, all right then. I bet you if you brought this up to
you don't always inform your thugs of what you're doing.
I can imagine like you go to Shinya Tsukumo and he goes, "Yeah, that was right." He goes, "What? Yeah, sure. I'm a genius." But
but I feel like if you're a baddie, you're like a lead baddie, you don't inform your underlings. You just tell them to do their part. You don't answer their questions.
Fair enough.
The less they know, the better.
So what we find out is that Taniguchi actually has this ability to turn into a human gun where a bunch of turrets come out of his chest, his arm becomes like a cannon. And the second time, like, I don't know how this...
plinth out of his shoulder.
I don't know why his parents of... Minori, this little boy, because it was earlier in the film. The wife Kana's asking her husband. She's like, "Oh, did you have it?" Because he couldn't sleep, I think, or he had a dream, and he was foretelling, I guess, the last frame of the film, where he said, "I saw us, just the three of us, and it was different." He was like talking about that, and that literally at the end of the movie, he destroyed the world.
I didn't understand the very last ending. Like,
at the very end, he ended up having a new child with his wife, and he basically destroyed the world. Like, he turned into that giant... This is a movie where a fucking guy turns into a tank at the end of the movie, made of people.
No, I remember. I know he turns into a giant tank and he controls all those people and like puppets.
He basically destroys the world because at the very end you see him with his wife and his son walking around and like Tokyo's obliterated. And
I thought that was a hallucination. I mean,
it could be. That's what I interpreted it as, because like he's talking about having a dream about it, and then later on at the end of the film, like, I assume that's what happened. But I thought that was a pretty dope, like, ending. But yeah, so he ends up just laying waste to these. An interesting thing too is like a movie that we're gonna end up doing is Godzilla, the Japanese one, not the old one, the one that.
Which one? There's like.
I know, yeah. No, this is the one that I forget what the hell it's called. It was basically the newest to last Godzilla movie in Japan, where.
The King Kong versus Godzilla?
No, come on, get the fuck out of here. Think I got patience for that shit? But this is like a Japanese one by the guy who did Neon Genesis Evangelion, and it's like a fucked up, like, dark, disturbing Godzilla movie. And like Shinya Tsukumoto's actually in the movie too. He plays like a scientist.
I've seen random ones. I've seen like old ones.
Don't bother with any of those movies. This is a dope one. But why I'm talking about is that at the end when this guy Taniguchi becomes like a tank, and the tanks are like made of people, right? In that one, Godzilla is like it looks like a nightmare. Like he looks very frightening and shit. And I saw it up. I think I saw an hour of it, and I was like, wow, this is dope. At the end, apparently, like Godzilla, like pieces of him fall off, and it's like people, but they're like dragon people, and it's all like it's like nightmare shit. It's not like regular Godzilla movie. It looks fucking great. But that's what I think.
And this is by the same director, is what you're saying?
No, that's by Hideki Anno. He did Neon Genesis. If you ever go on, it's on Netflix. It's a series that it's like a psychological.
No, I've
big
seen
robot.
bits of it.
It's actually worth watching, and I saw the final 4 movies on Amazon Prime. You can watch. It's a series I say anybody who check it out. But what I'm saying is that the aesthetic of this dark sort of weird nature shit going on, I wonder if like Hideki took that idea from this one, because while it's kind of threadbare, the story for this, it's essentially a guy, gets his kid kidnapped, and then that part where he obliterated his kid, I was like, ooh, like I wasn't expecting that to happen. I thought they were gonna just throw the kid over the roof.
I think he just
something.
loses control.
Yeah, no, I don't think he did it on purpose, obviously, because the guy lifted the kid up at the last second. He fucking blew his kids apart, and that image of like the guy holding the child's hands in the air, I was like, whoa, and it was so funny because you could tell that kid was not an actor, the little boy, because he was laughing throughout every scene. He's like
really
smiling.
Get a good scary look for the main guy too.
Yeah, he's great. Oh yeah, with that he has like this sort of like a W that forms on his head or something. Like it's supposed to be
it's like a weird
pronounced
V
brow
sort of
on his forehead, like he looks like a superhero. But yeah, the movie is pretty thin. It's pretty devoid.
Honestly,
of...
I think it's a little tiresome and repetitive.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, because they both have. There's
how many times can you see guns come out of someone's chest and they shoot things? Like,
and also
cool. It is cool.
Yeah, and also it's like there's 2 sequences back to back of him chasing kidnappers. Literally, like the next scene after, and the same song playing over. So it's like really repetitive. It almost feels like you could have cut this movie in half and made it a 40-minute movie. Do you know what I mean? And I think he just didn't have much to work with storyline wise. That's why I wonder. If
this was an hour, it would have been great.
Yeah, it's like an hour and 20 minutes, and they filled the hour and 20 minutes. Like I only started not that it was boring me, but I started perking back up once they had the origin stuff with his dad, and it was explaining, that he was this sort of weird science experiment. So, not that I would think this is...
And a rapist to the mom.
That's true. Like, I wouldn't say this is a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie because I didn't approach it. Once I saw the first part scene, where they're in the kitchen and you see the cameras moving around very strangely, like, I didn't approach it as a regular film from that point on. I kind of watched it as an art house. Like, this weird art experimental. Like, there's plenty of movies that we've talked about on Hard Deconstruction where you can be at a bar and they can just kind of project it on a wall, and you
get what's happening.
Yeah, and you don't have to hear, and there's
certain movies you have to pay attention to every single second, otherwise you'll get lost.
Yeah, like so. This is definitely an aesthetics-driven film, and I appreciate it for that because the black and white is beautiful. The creature designs are cool. That part where we see, all the guys, the army of guys, all muscular in their underpants, working out, like that fucking.
That also cool. Reminded me of Yu Yu Hakusho because in the last season. There's like his demon father has his followers come and like they're all like these like bald muscular guys. It really reminded me. I'm pretty sure that Yu Yu Hakusho or the other way around was inspired by this. Like,
so yeah,
I'm not sure which came.
There's
first.
About 2 modes of this film where I think either you're gonna get it and be like, oh, this is cool. Like it's a cool movie to watch. And then there's going to be like, why did I just waste my time on it? And I was almost at the last minute going to be like, hey, let's review a different movie, but I didn't realize you had seen the movie already. But I think...
No, I mean, this counts.
I think it's worth watching this film, especially if you're into aesthetics and you want to see something interesting from the 90s. And Shinya Tsukumo is a pretty prolific director that I kind of want to get into more of his films. The look is good. The soundtrack is pretty cool.
I remember the story of the Hiroku or
the Goblin.
Hidoku. The Goblin.
Haruko the Goblin.
Like pretty fun and cute, actually.
Yeah, because I think that was based on a comic book that they kind of fixed.
That was like
a
real story.
Yeah, right. There was stuff going on, and it was fun, and it was a completely different film from this one. It's like I wonder if he did this before that movie, but definitely this looks like he's still getting his footing together, making this movie. Do you know what I mean? Like he's getting more confident as a director with this film. And there's this cool shit that I'm sure, like, I don't know, I assume that this borrowed off of Akira, like the part where, when they're starting to activate Taniguchi's, like, powers and they put that whole, like, gear on his head, like, the visor and everything and the headphones, and it looked so fucking, like, I was like, oh, man, that looks so cool. And there's this sort of weird... danger.
I like them puking up the rust and shit.
Yeah, because I think those guys took the shot and they just all started rusting instead. Because I couldn't tell what that shit was on them. I thought it was like grass or something that was on their body, but they're rusting, and that's what he was gonna take to kill himself at the end. That's why he told his wife, "Listen, just give me an injection, kill me." But then she decided that she loved him so much, like she forgave him, even though she saw him obliterate their child in front of her own eyes. Right. But there's something about, like, just even the selling point of this. Like, I remember when I would used to go to Kim Video, and I would see the cover of this movie, and it's that image of him with the visor on and shit, and he looks all, like, spooky. And, like, it was, like, so forbidden and so foreign to me. Because back then in, like, the 90s or the 80s, late 80s, our movies, all our posters were like the Goonies and, that sort of Drew Struzan's type of poster. And this was like nightmarish and weird looking. And we don't, like, American posters still don't.
And you couldn't stream it. That didn't exist.
Obviously not, yeah. And so I always thought that was, and it kind of lived up to my expectations of what this type of film was. And I really think anybody who's into art house films or into just any Japanese cinema, you might as well just give this a look because I think it's worth checking out. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it a lot. It's
visually awesome.
Absolutely. I think this is worth watching. And, down the road, I don't know if it's a rewatchable film. I think it's one of those films where you can watch segments of it and be like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I think that I certainly...
I wouldn't rewatch it.
Oh, so he did this movie directly after Haruko the Goblin. So this movie was like, I guess he learned... Okay. Although I think Haruko the Goblin is more straightforward aesthetically, and I think maybe he does these films to kind of have like a,
outlet for art.
Right. So what rating would you give Tetsuo to Body Hammer?
I give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. Absorbing a gun into your arm for no reason, and then seeing your dad kill your mom by accident. I think it was an accident. So then you pop the gun out of your hand and kill your dad.
His mom was still alive after he shot her, and then he shot her again. So not only did she got like shot twice, like hundreds.
He went berserk. He went Ichi the Killer.
There also the funny thing is if you can see clips of the new Godzilla movie where they have bloopers, and Shinya Tsukumo will say his line, and everybody's laughing because something funny happened, and he looks like he's so upset, and that's what makes it even funnier because he's not even laughing. Everybody else is laughing. He has this look on his face because he's like a prolific director, and everybody's just laughing on the set. It was so funny.
People need to not take themselves seriously.
Yeah. I don't know if he takes himself too seriously, but that certainly looks like it. So I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. Your wife refusing to end your evil ways and rides off into the sunset with you, turning into a gigantic tank made out of the mutated bodies of bald men. And with that, Danny, what's the final word?
Bald men.